Your shadow is proof that light has traveled over 93 million miles without being blocked by anything, only to not reach the ground because of you. Greetings gamers and welcome back to Top 10 Gaming. I'm your host Carl Monroe and I'm wearing a suit. Final Fantasy is an old series and obviously being a popular one has generated some fan content. But what are some of the most interesting spooky stories about the Final Fantasy gang? Well, that's what we're exploring with today's list of the top 10 Final Fantasy creepypastas. Roll the intro. In a 10 Final Fantasy mix of death. My friend loves three things: Pokemon, Final Fantasy, and making video games. He had recently been working on a game called Final Fantasy Mix, so I asked about it. He told me that it was completed and that he'd send it tomorrow. The next day I received a disc in the mail and threw it in my PC. The game told me to put on my headset for the best experience, and the first part skipped to a first-person view, and my first mission was having to assassinate King Leo from Crystal Chronicles: My Life as a King. My character, named Colin, took King Leo out in only one hit, and Leo screamed. This sort of mission continued, and I kept assassinating people, and the gore was becoming more and more noticeable, and the screams kept getting louder and more horrific. Eventually I got a break where someone asked me to collect food, but the mushrooms were bloody. By mission 15 I hadn't seen my friend, who said he had inserted himself into the game, but my character was crying blood and his eyes were pitch black with red pupils, still at level 1. My next mission was to destroy a dark crystal, and Mira stood against me. I tore her to pieces and my character seemed to like it. He even ate her organs, and I shuddered at what my friend had created. Eventually I found my friend's avatar, but my character just started laughing and wouldn't stop. I went to express my anger to my friend, but he seems to have vanished. In at 9 I am Cloud Strife. I woke up and got ready for school. I leave for school by climbing out the window. I do this because my mom wants to kill me. I'm Cloud Strife, not my choice. I moved here 5 years ago when I was 9 and I hate it here. Something about this place doesn't feel right to me. I used to live in Ohio, but my mom got a promotion, so we moved here to Pennsylvania. I asked my mom to stay and I begged her to stay, but she said this would help us. I feel like something is always watching me, like it's out to get me. I'm risking everything by telling you. It's dangerous, really dangerous. Welcome to my nightmare. I hope you enjoy it. This was only chapter 1 of the story, so be sure to find it on Wattpad to see the rest when it comes out, because, it was decent opening. In at 8, the Hall of Souls. After playing a load of Duodecim, I figured it would be a good idea to head back to my original copy of Dissidia for some reminiscing. When I load up the game, only the story mode can be selected, and the only save is called the Hall of Souls. When I loaded up, it was just black. I messed with the controls and see a stained glass walkway in the darkness. I was playing as Cosmos and she had no abilities, she could only walk. At the end of the walkway I saw other characters visible, but as I kept walking, red spots kept popping up, and more until everything I saw was red. When I make it to the end of the path, I see everyone but Chaos. All of them are in various poses, like they're in pain. They're very contorted. No blood, no gore, but their faces are looks of sheer horror, and the scars visible are plentiful. The red fades in and is only visible on the round red platform in front of me. I walk to the center and my character freezes and poses like the others, in agony. Then satanic music starts playing, and I freak out and shut off my game, and I haven't turned anything associated with that experience on ever since. And it's 7 Honeybee Inn. I thought I had gotten my hands on an early copy of the Final Fantasy VII remake, but this was not the case at all. When I loaded the game, Cloud was at the Honeybee Inn, where the head of the dinner corporation exits a room and says that he feels refreshed and like a new man, before instantly berating an employee of his for being there. After this, the woman who walks out of the room is Tifa. Did the love of my character's life just sleep with the evil guy for a quick buck? She dropped something on the floor, and when I picked it up, they were of unknown origin. I looked it up and this was actually meant to be in the main game but got removed. I don't know why they added it into the remake, but then I looked at the title again. Sure, this may not be the normal creepy definition, but it was certainly creepy to me, since later, they saw Marlene, the 5-year-old daughter of Barrett, run out of one of those rooms. And at 6, Titus and the Buster Sword. My name is Titus, and for the past few months I haven't been able to stop playing Final Fantasy. It stopped me from attending lectures, and I've even had a hard time stopping to eat, sleep, or go to the bathroom. The one day I was finally able to get some sleep was when I finished Final Fantasy X with a modded version, so I was able to get the Buster Sword. When the game was over, the whole night I dreamt of these games. I was hardly able to sleep since my mind was always active. This usually happens when I get really into something, but never this severe. When I wake up, it's right beside me. Standing at the side of my bed is the Buster Sword. I was able to pick it up as if it was made of foam, but it looked so realistic. I had to try it. I put it to my shoulder and moved it slowly, and it did indeed cut me, but the blood that came out was really saturated, pixelated, and would disappear before it hit the ground. I figured this would be a fun idea to show my friends, but when I did, they didn't get cut. They just instantly vanished, screaming in what seemed to be agonizing pain. I hid the sword after that until my mom came to investigate my room, and now I'm an orphan. If the cops ever show up, at least I have my defense. And at 5, the Dragon Seal. In Final Fantasy VI, after the world is turned into a wasteland, you are able to fight 8 dragons. Once the final one is defeated, a message appears that says the Dragon Seal has been broken, but nothing else happens. Unless you play the Game Boy version, where you can fight the 8 dragons once more, but they have a new ability. In my version, after doing this, the game had that message again, and when I reloaded the area, they were there again. I fought them once more and did the same thing, they were still there. I was getting great levels from this, so I kept going, until the last time where they didn't reappear, but I had gotten the message. They weren't anywhere to be seen, so I figured I had broken the game and left. The next day, on my way to school, I hear the battle music start to play. I thought it was just in my head, but then I turn around and see the skull dragon right behind me. I looked down and all my equipment was on, and it was a fight to the death. I killed the dragon with only a second to spare. If I had been hurt one more time, I would have been a goner. And then my equipment faded. When I looked up, I was surrounded by cops, all pointing their guns at me, telling me to stand down. Did they not see the dragon I just saved them from? I got on the ground and they cuffed me, calling me a druggie as they threw me into a cruiser. At least I got cuffed on Valentine's Day. And at 4, the Nemesis. I went to New York Comic Con a few years ago dressed as Cloud Strife, my favorite video game character. As I enter the building, I see someone dressed as my nemesis, Sephiroth. I shout his name, but he doesn't respond. I guess he either couldn't hear me or didn't care at this point. But after this happened, I kept seeing him everywhere. Not in a paranoid Peter Parker sort of sense, but in a I kept passing him sense. Day 2 was even weirder. I kept seeing him staring at me, never saying anything, not calling my character's name, or hell, even my own name would make me feel better at this point. And it was always from a distance. Day 3 is the thing that really tipped me over the edge. Sephiroth would keep staring at me, but now it was up close. At the end of the day, we were walking past each other. He was still staring at me, but then he grabs my arm and stops me from moving entirely. He said that the battle starts now and kept walking. Day 4, I finally understood what he meant. When I arrived for the final day, he was standing there waiting for me. I checked my prop and he was waiting with his. As I entered the building, a whole group of people were around us. He started shouting at me, yelling that it was my time to die, and that my reign of terror was over. I thought we were role-playing, so I just charged at him with my foam sword. Then he swung his. That's all I can remember before waking up in the ER with my arm gone. And 3, Eden. The Garden of Eden is something I never expected to experience when playing Final Fantasy. When playing Final Fantasy VIII, Eden is the most powerful summon. I was able to get my hands on it earlier than normal and I cast it for the first time. When I did, the game flashed white and changed to a first-person view of a tree. I was on the ground, but very close to it, and my movement was very smooth. I climbed up the tree, and while doing so, I knocked down an apple. The dialogue box said that the plan was set in motion and that they can join me now. The screen flashed white, and the next thing I know, Eden was in fact a giant snake who was in the middle of tearing apart the enemies with unholy fire, something which I will never be able to unsee. And at 2, the lost characters. I load up my old Final Fantasy, it was so neat. I looked for the saves that had been beat, but when they weren't there, I looked all around. They were behind me, not making a sound. But when I shrieked, they turned on me quick, then called into work and said I was sick. I don't know why this was creepy to me, but I haven't done a poem in a while, so there you go. And at 1, Eris in Hell. You don't typically see debug rooms anymore. They were a place that devs could go to make the debugging process easier, but in the Final Fantasy VII debug room, I found a really creepy message from the devs that made me worry for my safety. The room was pitch black, with the only contents being characters from the game standing perfectly still. Talking to these characters allows you to do anything in the game with any mixture of party members. One of these areas contained a giant version of Eris, the girl who dies at the hands of the main antagonist of the game. Her function allowed you to teleport anywhere, but the final area on our list was called Hades. The game has a summon spell for Hades, but there isn't an area for it. Hades is actually a mistranslation of the word hell, and when you ask about it, the response you get is silly. Didn't anyone tell you that this is Hades? Meaning that Eris gets sent to hell after dying at the hands of the main villain. Yikes. There we have it, friends, the top 10 Final Fantasy creepypastas. Are there any creepypastas that you wanted to see on this list, and which one on this list was your favorite? Let me know below, and while you're down there, be sure you hit like and subscribe for daily gaming content, and ring that bell to join the clan and level up. Thank you all so much for watching. I have been in Shower Mate Connor Monroe, and I'll see you in another video.